Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Gadi Schwartz coming to you from Los Angeles. And here are the stories we're watching tonight. While the Supreme Court temporarily extends access to a key abortion pill, the makers of that pill are suing the FDA to keep it on the market permanently. And yet another story of someone being shot for making an innocent mistake as a man opens fire on two cheerleaders in Texas after one of them mistakenly got into his car. And a third suspect is arrested in that mass shooting at an Alabama birthday party. That's on top of the two teenage brothers. All three suspects have now been charged with 4 counts of murder.
This is Alabama. And when you pull out a gun and you start shooting people, we're going to put you in jail.
And it looks like Democrats and Republicans might be trying to come together to solve the decades-old mystery. Are we alone in the universe?
We are committed to working with our interagency partners at NASA to appropriately inform U.S. government's leadership of its findings.
And we already know that AI technology is the future, but is it the future of filmmaking? We've got a demonstration you got to see to believe. And tonight, the legal battle around abortion access continues. The Supreme Court today giving yet another extension when it comes to accessing the abortion drug mifepristone. Now, this is not an all-out victory. It is just a temporary legal hold as the Supreme Court continues to decide what to do permanently. Meanwhile, one of the generic manufacturers of the pill is now also suing the FDA, saying that if the drug's approval was revoked, it would cause catastrophic harm to the company. So how's this whole thing going to play out over the next few days? NBC News analyst Danny Savalos joins us now. Danny, this hold has only been extended for like 48 hours here. Do you think that they're close to an actual permanent decision?
I wouldn't be surprised if the hold gets extended again, because this is just not a lot of time for the litigants to get this done. And this is a pretty complex type of appeal. After all, in a sense, the Fifth Circuit on appeal has made a bit of a mess, and not disparaging the Fifth Circuit. I mean, they made the ruling that they saw fit, the decision they saw fit, but you have 2 district courts, one in Washington, one in Texas, that have issued very different, at least spiritually different opinions. And then you have the Fifth Circuit overturning the lower court in part, but allowing the decision to remain in effect also in part, making it really confusing. And then to make it even more confusing, the Supreme Court essentially put the original district court decision on hold, which leaves us wondering what, if anything, does the Fifth Circuit decision even mean anymore?
Yeah, my head is spinning here. So just to clarify, as I understand it, the Circuit Court did give the FDA a partial victory last week, right, by upholding the approval of the drug from way back in the year 2000. So what exactly is on the table here for the Supreme Court to decide, to consider?
Well, the Biden administration has asked for review at the Supreme Court, and it may be, I mean, there's a lot of different things that the Supreme Court can do. In fact, they can do virtually anything on appeal on issues of law from the Fifth Circuit. And so it can ultimately completely overturn, in theory, the district court's decision. Given the current makeup of the court, however, I don't think that's very likely. I think we might see a court that is going to lean on the side of the Texas District Court, which originally revoked the original FDA approval for this drug.
Okay, and then Gen BioPro, the manufacturer of one of the generic forms of mifepristone, they're now suing the FDA. Is there any chance that this and that will tie all this up into even more legal fights and we won't see a solid decision for quite some time?
Possibly. The challenge that the company has is that ordinarily you can't sue legislatures or courts for decisions that just happen to have an economic effect on your business. That alone may not be enough for standing. It may not be enough for a cause of action. But there's no question that any company like this one, who's in the manufacturing or distribution business of this drug, is going to be heavily economically affected. It's just that traditionally doesn't necessarily mean that as a plaintiff, you win just because you've been harmed by a piece of legislation or a court decision that has some economic effect on your bottom line.
Danny Savalos, thanks so much. And for at least the third time in a week, an innocent mistake has led to gun violence. Early this morning, two competitive cheerleaders were shot in Texas after one of them accidentally entered the wrong car. One was just grazed, but 18-year-old Peyton Washington was shot twice and badly hurt. Her father says she's now recovering in the ICU. It's a far cry from what she was doing this time yesterday.
I'm Peyton Washington. I'm 16 years old, and I'm from Austin, Texas. I'm 100% focused on cheerleading all the time. I dream about it, wake up, think about it, and think about what's best for my team. Cheer is everything.
Again, she is now recovering. Joining us now is NBC's Morgan Chesky. So, Morgan, Heather Roth, one of the cheerleaders that was with her last night, had this to say on Instagram Live. Let's take a quick listen.
I was trying to apologize to him for accidentally getting in the wrong car. I didn't get in the car, I just opened the door. And then I just, halfway my window was down, he just threw his hands up and then he pulled out a gun. And then he just started shooting at all of us.
And Morgan, bring us up to speed here. What happened?
Yeah, Gadi, this was a trip that those familiar with this cheer competition say these girls have done hundreds of times, driving from their homes in Austin to train at a center just outside Houston and then carpooling back, meeting up in this parking lot where this horrific tragedy unfolded. We're told that the group of cheerleaders had stopped there in the grocery store parking lot so everyone could go to their respective vehicles. And that's when one of them went up to the car, opened the door, saw someone she didn't recognize inside, then realized it was the wrong car entirely. She retreated back to her original vehicle, but they said there was almost no words exchanged, Gadi. The man inside that vehicle stepped outside, pulled out a handgun, and started firing multiple times, striking one of those cheerleaders with a grazing wound and then seriously wounding Peyton Washington, who had to be helicoptered to this Austin hospital where she underwent serious surgery. However, we do know, according to her family and friends, that she made it through okay and is already able to speak to family and friends who are currently hoping for a full recovery. But as for that suspect, Gadi, we do know that he is in police custody. Gadi?
Do we have any more information on that suspect? What did he tell police? I know Texas is a stand your ground law. It was technically his car. Right. How does the law work here?
Yeah, well, it will be interesting to see how this plays out here. He's been charged with deadly conduct, which, if convicted, he faces anywhere up to a $10,000 fine, 2 to 10 years inside a Texas prison. Important to note here, Gadi, if the charge was, say, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, we're not looking at 10 years max, but a 20-year max. So it's interesting that this charge is just for deadly conduct. Of course, you'd have to ask the officials why they pursued that specific charge. We have, however, had a chance to speak to those with the cheer community, friends of the Washington family, and they have already publicly said that they hope somehow more serious charges can be brought against this 25-year-old that currently remains in police custody. Gadi?
Morgan Chesky, thanks so much. And tonight, Alabama police say a third suspect has been arrested in that deadly mass shooting at a Sweet 16 party this weekend. All of the suspects have been charged with 4 counts of reckless murder. Now, 2 of the suspects are 16 and 17-year-old brothers. Police say they have been charged as adults. The third is 20 years old, and his arrest was just announced. Now, they're accused of opening fire at a party in Dadeville this weekend. 4 have died from that shooting, including the brother of the birthday girl. 32 were hurt, with several still in the hospital. And joining us now is NBC News correspondent Gadi Venegas. Gadi, what can you tell us about the suspects and how were they caught?
Gadi, so this morning, authorities had a press conference. The Alabama law enforcement agency informed that the first 2 suspects had been arrested yesterday. So these 2 were arrested. These are minors. We know that they're from Tuskegee, and they're being charged with the 4 counts of reckless murder. Now, they didn't want to give more information as to how they caught these suspects or a possible motive or anything that the press wanted to ask in addition to knowing that 2 had been arrested. Hours later, At about 5 p.m. today, it was informed that a third suspect was in custody. Now, the difference is that this third suspect is an adult. He's been identified as 20-year-old Wilson Lamar Hill. Now, he's from Auburn. That's a different city. That's all we know about them. He's also being charged with these 4 counts of reckless murder. But about the investigation and any specifics as to how they found these suspects, we still don't know. The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency has decided to keep a lot of these details from the public. We do know that they conducted several interviews with the witnesses. We also know that they recovered numerous shells that they said belonged to handguns. As of now, that's the information we've received. We're expecting more information now that a third suspect has been arrested, Gadi.
And Gad, what can you tell us about a possible motive here? What are police still looking into? We had been hearing rumors that somebody might not have been allowed into the party. Is there any validity to that?
So, Gadi, today when law enforcement agents spoke at this press conference, members of the media asked specifically for a motive, asked for them to share if they had any idea of what could have been the cause, and they said they did not want to disclose that information. Now, from the witnesses that we have interviewed, NBC News interviewed the DJ at the party, we heard that there could have been individuals that attempted to come to the party that perhaps had a weapon coming to the party that were asked to leave. Now, these are just accounts coming from witnesses. None of this has been verified by authorities, so we don't know what could have been the motive. We do know from the DJ that spoke to NBC News and other witnesses that have spoken to local news outlets that when the shooting began, they did say it was very dark inside the venue. Some of the witnesses also have said that it sounded like different gunshots coming from different places, but those are really all the details we've been able to gather from some of these testimonies. Again, none of this has been verified by authorities who have chosen to keep a lot of that information undisclosed for now, Gadi.
And Gad, there's still people in the hospital. What can you tell us about some of the surviving victims?
Gadi, so initially we were given the number of 28. That was changed to 32 individuals wounded. We know that several or some of them had been critically injured. That was the information that was given from authorities. Now, today they've also disclosed a name. Authorities told us that Lexi Dowdell was the girl celebrating her birthday party, her Sweet 16 birthday party, and they said that she spoke to her brother Phil Dowdell, who's one of those that died. They described what the moment was like for her, indicating that she spoke her last words to him before he passed away, with the other 3 victims that died that evening. Gadi.
Heartbreaking. NBC's Gad Venegas, thanks so much. All right, and finally, let's talk some UFOs. You've probably seen all those videos floating around on social media, or maybe when you were, I don't know, a little kid, you were driving across the New Mexico desert and saw something weird up in the sky. But that's a different story. What I do know is that there are a lot of self-proclaimed experts telling you exactly what those UFOs are. Well, today, breaking news, we have a bona fide expert saying the government doesn't know. And to prove just how weird this whole unidentified aerial phenomena thing is, on Capitol Hill today, in the second recent UFO hearing, the director of the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office showed this video of some sort of little orb being tracked from above, flying over a combat zone.
It is going to be virtually impossible to fully identify that just based off of that video. The first one that I showed you, we don't have resolved yet, right? That is an unresolved case we are still studying. But this is the kind of data that we have to work with and the type of analysis that we have to do, which can be quite extensive when you have to pull these apart frame by frame.
There's just not enough data. And long story short, the government doesn't know. Now, all of this came up at Dr. Kirkpatrick's testimony in front of the Senate Armed Services Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities today. It is the second hearing of this kind in over 50 years. And if you're wondering if they talked about the extraterrestrial, they did. Here's what he said.
Only a very small percentage of UAP reports display signatures that could reasonably be described as anomalous. In our research, AARO has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
And NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins me now. Ryan, first off, nothing earth-shattering today, but the biggest question, since this doesn't appear to be our tech, what are the chances that it's some sort of advanced tech from possibly an adversary?
That does seem to be the biggest concern, Gadi. And right now, they are able to at least identify about half of these reports that have really skyrocketed over the past couple of years. And for the most part, it tends to be weather balloons. It can be any number of different pieces of technology, drones, things like that. And there is some concern that this technology could be coming from a foreign adversary. So that's part of the reason that this office exists, for the government to keep track of these reports, to try and figure out where it comes from. But the most revealing thing today that I think you accurately point out is that, for the most part, they really don't know what much of this stuff that these pilots see up in the sky actually is.
It seems like they're doing a much better job kind of keeping everything in one pile. I think that pile is up to something like 600 sightings now, and they're doing a decent job at categorizing like the size, the shape of these things. Looks like flying saucers are out the window because most of them are not in that cylindrical shape. It seems like most of them are spherical and like pretty small, right? Something along the lines of like 2 to 6 feet. Can you talk to us a little bit about the AARO office, AARO? Is this the only one that we know about, and do they have enough funding for this kind of work?
Yeah, this appears to be the kind of the central location to try for the government to track all of these unidentified objects that are floating out there in space, that are caught by pilots, that are caught by people on the ground, things along those lines. And, you know, there's probably not a number that you could put on a budget that would allow them to keep track of every single thing that's out there, because it really is such an enormous mandate, right? Basically, if someone sees something in the sky that they can't identify, this office takes care of it. So there's just so much at play here. So yeah, I think the answer to your question is they probably don't have enough funding to really go after this in kind of a substantive way. And the big problem that you heard the director talk about today is that a lot of times, even the stuff that's captured on video, the amount of time that it's captured on video is so brief that it's just not enough information to try and say anything definitive about where it came from. And so what they're trying to do now is make a record of these things. Now, if they see something that fits a similar pattern 3 or 4 different times, then maybe they can start to draw some sort of a conclusion. But I think the overwhelming thing that I took away from this hearing today is that the government's not necessarily hiding anything from us. They don't really know anything. And I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
Yeah. And finally, like, you've got I mean, we just had all of those shoot downs of what may or may not have been balloons, and then you had the shoot down of the definite balloon. How does that play into this whole UAP scenario?
Well, it all falls under that umbrella, which is why, you know, the mandate of this office is so enormous. And so basically anything in the sky from a certain distance right up through the atmosphere could be something that, if we can't figure out what it is, that this office would take care of. So, you know, I think kind of the interesting part of this is this idea that there may be some sort of alien life form that's coming into our skies. And I should point out that the director did say that most of the stuff that they have seen doesn't fit those characteristics. It doesn't defy the laws of physics, but he also said that they couldn't necessarily rule it out. So that still remains a possibility. But in reality, the main responsibility of this office is to make sure that there isn't some sort of serious threat to the people on the ground. And that's their mandate right now. And while it's kind of interesting to talk about aliens, there's really a more specific earthly reason for this office to exist.
Ryan, fascinating. I don't know about you, but like the alien thing we've all talked about, the idea of like small orbs flying around that we just don't know what's going on there. That seems like a mystery that is worth investigating. I will say this. You talked about funding. Once Carl Sagan said extraordinary claims call for extraordinary evidence. As all this came about, I was talking to an astrophysicist and he's like, yeah, but extraordinary evidence calls for extraordinary funding. And right. To your point, I don't think we've seen that yet. So, Ryan Nobles, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And still ahead on this hour, world leaders honoring a somber anniversary in Poland. That's straight ahead as we go around the world in 80 seconds. Plus, the man who shot a 16-year-old for ringing the wrong doorbell, pleading not guilty today. And he's out on bail. That's all coming up. Welcome Welcome back. There is a lot happening internationally, so let's take you around the world in 80 seconds. The presidents of Germany, Israel, and Poland gathered in Warsaw today to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. That's when hundreds of young Jews launched an armed revolt against the Nazis on April 19, 1943. Today, Germany's president drew parallels with the war in Ukraine and the importance of defending democracy. And former President Bill Clinton was back in Belfast this week, 25 years after playing an important role in the Good Friday Agreement that brought peace to that region. Clinton joined former and present prime ministers of Ireland and the UK for a three-day conference reflecting on the significance of that agreement. And we are now learning how the Chinese have basically been celebrating French President Emmanuel Macron's trip there this month. You see, Macron said that Europe should try not to get dragged into some sort of international beef over Taiwan. That did not go over well with his allies, but China seems pleased. And hundreds of people are dead as a bloody battle for power rages on in Sudan. Two rival military leaders have been fighting since the weekend, and millions have been caught in the crossfire, including a U.S. diplomatic convoy, which came under attack. People are trying to take cover from airstrikes, shelling, and gunfights in the capital city of Khartoum. And NBC's Josh Letterman has more.
In the first 24 hours or so of this crisis, people were throwing around the word coup quite a bit because we saw this paramilitary force, the Rapid Support Forces, going after things like the airport, the presidential palace, as well as the state TV station. All of the targets you might go after if an armed group was trying to overthrow the government and take power of a country by force. But as the death toll has surpassed 270, according to the WHO, and this conflict has continued day after day, we're starting to see what more looks like the beginnings, potentially, of a civil war between armed factions, the paramilitary on one hand and Sudan's actual military force on the other. As the humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, people cowering in their homes with shortages of food, medicine, fuel, and even water. Dozens of hospitals now out of commission as the international community, with very little that they can actually do about this, pleads for an immediate ceasefire. There was an agreement today for a 24-hour ceasefire, the second day in a row that they agreed to that. But even in the first hours of the ceasefire, there were violations, reports of gunfire, as other nations around the world are anxiously trying to get their citizens out of the country, but with little route for evacuation, with the airport closed and no other safe way to get their citizens out of the country.
Josh Letterman, thanks so much. At least 29 people are dead after a fire broke out in a hospital in Beijing. Another 21 were hospitalized in critical or serious condition, and it is one of the deadliest fires in the Chinese capital in decades. Our partners at Sky News have more.
You can only imagine the terror of what was unfolding inside. Fire ripping through the wards of a hospital, Beijing's most deadly blaze in decades. Hurry up, you can hear them shouting. Some, the lucky and the able-bodied, just able to escape. But many, more vulnerable, were left trapped. Authorities say this fire was extinguished in just half an hour. But for many, it was too late. 29, mostly elderly patients perished here. At a press conference, authorities held a moment of silence to remember the dead, and then gave more detail about exactly what happened.
After initial investigation, the fire was caused by fire sparks from construction work as part of an internal renovation of the inpatient department. It ignited on combustible paint. The next step will be to learn from the pain and reflect on this case.
The morning after, the building bore signs of the struggle. 12 people, including the hospital director, have been arrested, and a huge investigation into fire safety citywide has been launched.
There are lots of signs on the building of just how rapidly the fire must have spread. One person who did manage to escape told Chinese media they didn't hear any fire alarms or see any sprinklers activated. There are questions now about how so many people lost their lives and about safety standards too.
And the authorities clearly know this. There was an intense police presence here.
By the rules, we are allowed to film in the streets.
We were repeatedly stopped and moved on. They know it doesn't look good. Public anger is so often suppressed here, but it does exist. Such a mass loss of life may well spark it. There could well be a reckoning to come. Helen Ann Smith, Sky News in Beijing.
And coming up, why does it seem like turbulence is getting worse every time you fly? Well, that's because it actually is. We're going to explain. But first, you see that thing? No, that is not a UFO. It is not a portal to another dimension. It's just spaceship fuel. That light blue spiral appeared over the northern lights in the Alaskan sky on Saturday. And experts now say it was caused by an extra fuel dump over California from SpaceX. That launch happened just hours earlier. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's get you caught up in 30 seconds. The abortion pill mifepristone is still allowed on the market, at least for another 2 days. The Supreme Court today pressed pause on limiting the medication until there's a final ruling. And 3 people were arrested for a shooting at a Sweet 16 birthday party in Alabama that left 4 dead. 2 of the suspects are 16 and 17 years old, but they will be charged as adults. And a Texas man is in custody tonight for shooting 2 cheerleaders after one mistakenly got into the wrong car. One of the 2 injured is currently recovering the ICU. A line of strong storms is sweeping through the Midwest tonight. Right now, 8 million people are under a severe weather threat. Over in Montana, keep those shovels nearby. 1 to 2 feet of snow is piling up. And we're also seeing some crazy weather in Wisconsin. Just look at the size of that hail. That is bigger than a quarter. And some areas, we are being told, might see hail that is bigger than a baseball. Joining us now is NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, what are these storms looking like right now?
They're exploding, and if we're going to get the big, huge hail damage, it's going to be in the next couple hours, and that would be occurring mostly in areas from Nebraska to Iowa. We've had some really big hail. All these little white dots are hail reports with this storm that's been rolling through northern portions of Illinois. So it's not isolated to Omaha, Sioux City, St. Joseph, Kansas City, but that's primarily where the biggest storms will be. And this is mostly a hail threat. We're not really talking too many tornadoes. We may get an isolated tornado or 2, but nothing like what we saw with those outbreaks a week or 2 ago. But the hail is forming because the air is rising rapidly. We call that the updraft in the thunderstorm. Sometimes it can be up to 100 miles per hour. That air is just flying northwards in the sky. It takes pieces of ice, raindrops turn to ice, and then they just sit there and spin in the cloud until they get too heavy, and then they drop to the ground. Well, sometimes, they can get to baseball-sized hail, and then to have that happen, you have to get the updraft in the storm going over 100 miles per hour. So if you've seen the billowing clouds, imagine inside of that 100-mile-per-hour wind. That's how you get up to softball-sized hail. Baseball hail is like 80 mile per hour updrafts. And this is where we get the hail that does a lot of damage. You get hails from about 2 inches or bigger. We call it significant. That's tennis ball to baseball to softball. That's the stuff that's breaking windshields, damaging shingles all over your roof, denting your car, ruining farmers' crops. You can devastate entire cornfields if it happens. But obviously not now, but a little later in the growing season. So as far as the watches go, severe thunderstorm watch up here in northern Iowa. We do have 2 tornado watches. So it's not like we're not going to see any tornadoes today, but hail is definitely the biggest threat out there. And this goes until about 11 o'clock this evening. That's from Kansas City up here to Omaha, and then this area here from Oklahoma City down towards Wichita Falls. These are the 2 areas of concern. And if we get that large hail, it's kind of in this corridor here along the Mississippi River from Omaha down towards Kansas City. Tomorrow, it looks like in the afternoon, evening, new storms will form. Mostly a hail threat. Dallas-Fort Worth will watch you closely tomorrow afternoon and evening, and then heading towards Texarkana, Little Rock, and eventually tomorrow night towards Shreveport. Then on Friday, just a small area. We could get some damaging wind and smaller size hail in the Houston area. So that's kind of the biggest concerns, Gadi, as far as severe weather goes.
I had no idea updrafts could be over 100 miles an hour. You learn something new every day. Bill, thanks so much. In kind of related news, do you ever feel like pilots are warning about turbulence a lot more these days? No, it is not just in your head. Researchers say it is gonna get worse. So what's behind all those bumpy skies? NBC's Tom Costello explains.
Yeah, hey, Gadi. So what's interesting here is that, no, it's not your imagination. Indeed, yes. It appears that we are seeing more and more turbulence. It's gotten worse over the years. And the climate experts we talk to and the atmospheric experts say it's because of carbon dioxide emissions that are warming up the planet. And they believe it will only get worse over the coming decades. And that means that if you're traveling from the West Coast to the East, if you're traveling all the way to Europe, you could be in for a bumpier ride in the years ahead. It happens every single day, 5,500 times each year. Severe turbulence can send service carts, food, drinks, and passengers flying.
Do we have any trained medical personnel?
Sometimes causing serious injuries, lacerations, broken bones, and concussions.
I saw like a handful of people with lacerations on their head and blood dripping down.
7 were injured in March when a Lufthansa flight from Texas to Germany hit severe turbulence over Tennessee. On board, actor Matthew McConaughey, who talked about it on Kelly Ripa's podcast.
It was a hell of a scare. A complete loss of control.
Atmospheric researchers in the U.S. and Britain say so-called clear air turbulence has only gotten more severe over the decades.
Turbulence is increasing, and it's because of climate change. We know that the amount of wind shear in the jet stream is now 15% stronger than it was when satellites first began observing it in the 1970s.
And researcher Paul Williams predicts turbulence will get 2 to 3 times worse in the years to come, affecting flights at high altitudes in the northern hemisphere.
We're warming the planet, but we're not warming it uniformly everywhere. And it turns out that at flight cruising altitudes of 35, 40,000 feet, it's actually warming more rapidly in the tropical parts of the planet than the polar regions. And that's increasing the north-south temperature difference, which is what drives the wind shear.
There's been no noticeable increase in the jet stream winds across the northern hemisphere. But what we are seeing is that the differentiating in height, that's where we're seeing the winds changing different directions. And that's when you get the clear air turbulence and the bumpy flights.
Clear air turbulence is invisible to radar. Most pilots rely on fellow pilots' radio reports to know where it is.
If you imagine the airflow over this wing experiencing a sudden updraft, this wing will be pushed up violently and instantaneously, and the airplane will tilt to the left. If you want to experience the least amount of turbulence, you want to sit next to the root of the wing. If you want to experience most of it, go back in the tail. That's where the aircraft will start to oscillate a lot more.
On commercial planes, flight attendants who are up and about suffer 78% of the injuries.
Skies have definitely gotten more turbulent, and during the course of my 26-year career, turbulence was always the biggest threat on the job.
I will say seatbelts, seatbelts, seatbelts. That is the most important part of this.
Yeah, one important point here, and that is that commercial planes, military planes, they're built to withstand that kind of pressure with extreme turbulence. The plane makers, they literally will bend the wings back in these testing scenarios to put maximum torque, maximum G-forces on the wings to see, do they hold? They always hold. So it's not really a question of whether the planes themselves can withstand the torque and the G-forces. It's really about the people inside that are tossed around and whether turbulence is only going to get worse. Gadi, back to you, buddy.
Kind of comforting. Thanks so much, Tom. And 25 years ago, it was a groundbreaking concept, delivering DVDs to your doorstep. Crazy, right? It's how Netflix first found fame long before they started streaming. And believe it or not, you can still order DVDs that way. But if you're planning on an old school movie night, you better do it soon because the iconic service is only going to offer that until September. NBC's Joe Fryer has more.
In the age of streaming, those red envelopes might feel as archaic as the telegraph. But not that long ago, DVDs delivered by snail mail seemed anything but sluggish. Our online queues offered an alternative to combing the aisles at Blockbuster Video. Come September 29th, Netflix will finally end its DVD by mail business. While the company won't say how many people still use it, we know it's at least one.
How do folks react when they hear you still get DVDs by mail?
Most people are like, that's still a thing?
Amanda Conkle teaches film studies at Georgia Southern University. She says the Netflix DVD plan is cheaper than signing up for a bunch of streaming services, and the selection for older, more obscure movies is usually better.
You know, the first thing I said this morning when I saw the news on my phone was, oh, I'm going to have to buy a whole lot more DVDs now because I can't access things the same way anymore.
Netflix actually started mailing DVDs back in 1998. The first disc sent out was Beetlejuice. It's showtime. And the most requested, The Blind Side.
You protect his blind side.
Over 25 years, the company has shipped out more than 5.2 billion DVDs.
I guess up until September to watch a lot of things.
After that, well, Amanda won't be mailing it in. Joe Fryer, NBC News.
And up next, the future of everything. Filmmaking is an art that takes time, right? Finding a story, writing a script, getting financing, filming, editing, the list goes on. But what happens when you throw in AI? We're going to take you behind the scenes. But first, if you get a minute tonight, you might want to look up because an old 700-pound NASA satellite is falling to Earth. Don't worry, experts say it is likely to burn before hitting the ground. The risk of anyone getting hurt? Only about 1 in 2,467. We'll be right back. And here's some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. The Air National Guardsman accused of leaking classified military documents appeared in federal court today, but only briefly. A judge approved a request to delay the detention hearing for 21-year-old Jack Teixeira for 2 weeks. And the homeowner accused of shooting a 16-year-old black teen for ringing the wrong doorbell pleaded not guilty today. 84-year-old Andrew Lester faces felony charges for shooting Ralph Yarl once in the head and then again in the arm. Yarl's attorney posted a picture today saying Yarl is at home and he's recovering. And former Trump Organization CFO Alan Weissenberg is out of prison. He pleaded guilty last year to helping run a 15-year fraud scheme. And basketball players at New Mexico State University are filing an explosive lawsuit over hazing accusations. They are suing the Board of Regents, former coaches, and 3 former players. That lawsuit details allegations of sexual harassment, and the university says the matter is being taken seriously. And the CDC today approving a second dose of the updated COVID booster vaccine. At-risk Americans can now roll up their sleeves 4 months after their last dose, and that includes people over 65 or with weakened immune systems. And kicking off our Future of Everything segment tonight, another round of layoffs at Meta. The Facebook parent company notified employees today that this round of cuts seems to be focused on technical employees, but additional layoffs to the business groups are expected to take place in May. And Twitter is facing backlash tonight. That's after some users noticed language has been removed from its hateful conduct policy. The language protected transgender people, and the advocacy group GLAAD condemns that move. Now, it's unclear whether the change in language means there is any change in the policy itself. And the FTC says companies using artificial intelligence will be held accountable for, quote, wrongdoing that comes from the technology. During a congressional hearing this week, the FTC's chair admitted that AI could be used for fraud, scams, and even to violate civil rights. AI is being used for scripting, for shooting, and producing movies. And here's part of a short film that I saw on Twitter, generated almost entirely by AI. Take a look.
Hey, babe, how was work?
I'm exhausted.
Okay, well, get some sleep.
What is all this? Is this a lab of some kind?
It broke the hallucination. Restart it.
Whoa. What just happened?
What just happened? On set with us is director and storyteller John Finger. He is the human behind that short film. Welcome. Okay, so just break it down for us. What did you do and what did AI do in that film?
So the way this thing worked is I initially was just playing with GPT-4 and I
wanted to try out what can I use this for, and I tried asking it to make me a viral tweet. Made a tweet that was something along the lines of, you know, I woke up in the lab, what is this? And I'm an AI, and what does this mean? And
wait, and that tweet did kind of go viral, right?
It didn't, it did okay. It wasn't, I was more just excited about the story that it implied. And so I'm not that excited about these language models writing my scripts at the moment. I'm just, it's fun for me to play with ideas and that kind of thing. So I still wrote the script. But then I used a AI called Gen 2 from Runway, and I generated the individual shots to build up the scene that I had written.
So all the images, all those shots,
everything, yeah,
all AI. You
from
just
text to video. So I
you
typed
put
in what
the...
I wanted.
Wow.
Yeah, and the process is not streamlined. It's a little bit like you're a blind millionaire photographer that's asking a assistant to help you out, but that assistant doesn't speak English very well. So you're sitting there asking, okay, I want this shot, and you're getting back images, but they're like, okay, these aren't quite what I want.
You're like,
so I
generate again, generate again.
Okay, change the language a little bit. You didn't quite understand that word. Okay, you didn't quite understand that. So you're going back and forth, trying to find your way to this place where your assistant can understand what you're trying to convey so you can tell the story.
I think a lot of times when people see a final product like that, they're like, oh my gosh, what did you do that in? Like 5 minutes? And you're like, no, actually it took a lot of generate again. If you've, you know, pulling back the curtain a little bit, you've seen the whole process. So do you think that it is as powerful as everyone is fearing that it is? Or is there a lot of human interaction still with AI?
There is currently a lot of human interaction with AI, and I don't know if I'm certain that there is a protective bubble around creativity that will protect us. I wish I thought that was true. I do think we're kind of headed towards possibly, you know, right now is kind of a scary moment because the stuff that it can kind of do are things that are kind of jobs that if a creative person is doing that and replaced, they have nowhere else to go, right? But when as this is moving, that's assuming nothing changes. But as things move forward, to me, it looks like this is going to turn into a situation, sort of what YouTube did for distribution. Anyone can go out and be seen to the world, right? Now with YouTube and many platforms since. But the benefit to production is now some animator can have a vision that they're excited about, and they don't have to go listen to a bunch of other people talk about what they can and can't do. They can go make their film that they want to make, or even make a whole series or a game or whatever on the level that would be a multi-million-dollar level otherwise.
Now, it's funny because you wrote that script, and then it generated all those images based on your word prompts. We're here in LA. There's a writer strike right on the horizon here, and one of the biggest issues is AI. Do you think that AI and the way that we're using AI can replace creative writers?
I don't know if I know how fast things will go or where the barriers lie. I think if an entire film is able to be made by AI without a creative person, I think we have much bigger problems, because I think every job is probably, because you have to understand, like making a film, you have to understand the world in totality pretty well in order to make any film you want. So if you're able to do that, it seems to me all jobs are in trouble, and we need to start worrying about UBI and how we're going to make sure people are taken care of, which I actually feel like we probably should be having those conversations already, because even if there's a transition where you are, you know, having artists are going to be able to have their comeuppance of they suddenly can have their own brands and they don't have to listen to a big studio or something, that process is still going to be turbulent, and people are going to lose jobs, and some people are going to be scared and not know how to move forward. And it's, no matter how this goes, I don't think this is going to be a comfortable transition because it's changing really aggressively.
I'll say, I think your films are a canary in the coal mine, so we'll be staying tuned to what you do next.
All right,
John,
thanks
so very much.
All right, appreciate it.
And before we go, the best of us, stories of incredible people doing incredible things. We're going to introduce you to a high school senior whose invention is making our planet a little bit healthier with some extremely cool technology. And it's Climate Week here at NBC. And while there is plenty of doom and gloom and also methane out there, there is also some hope and inspiration coming from some bright young minds in the future. So back to the methane real fast. If you're thinking, I know methane is bad, I don't exactly know what it is, don't worry, we've got you. Methane, or CH4, is a greenhouse gas, and it accounts for about 20% of all global emissions. And compared to carbon dioxide, methane traps way more heat in the atmosphere, so it's not good at all. These are the ways methane was emitted in 2020, mostly natural gas, petroleum systems, and this pink chunk that's you can see down there, that's 15%. It's from landfills, and that's the same amount of gas from about 20 million cars if they were driven around for a year. And while the U.S. government right now has a few projects to try to turn landfill gas into renewable resources, one young girl is taking matters into her own hands, literally. Joining us now is high school senior and future climate scientist Lavanya Natarajan. She created a device to help reduce methane emissions. Okay, we want to hear everything about your device there.
Yeah, so actually I have it with me right now. But basically, this is called as my FEM, or my Fugitive Emissions Monitor. And so basically, it has a bunch of sensors, and it's connected to an Arduino MKR1000. So this is a Wi-Fi microcontroller. So what it does is it takes all the data from these sensors, and it stores it in here. And what I can do is I can wirelessly transmit this data to a dashboard, and then you can look at that on your phone anywhere you want to in the world. And so I'll just explain to you like what these sensors are. So this one is the methane sensor, and then the purple one is temperature, pressure, altitude, and humidity, and then this one is CO2 and TVOC.
And you soldered all this? You put all of this together?
I did actually, yeah. You can like see the back. I had to like solder everything. This took me like 4 hours to do, but it was a good learning experience.
Only 4 hours to do, huh? Okay, all right, so you've got this sensor there. This is communicating, and wait, back up even more. How did you even come up with this?
Yeah, so actually, I've been like working with landfills in general probably since like 4th grade. So first, I was kind of like I was looking at like water quality like under the landfill, and then my focus kind of gravitated to above the landfill. So I was looking at like I was looking at greenhouse gases and of course methane, which is the most potent. And I actually took a couple of landfill tours at my local landfills, and I met some super great people there. Actually, I have some of my closest mentors, and they told me about quite a bit of the problems that are occurring there. And then I finally realized that like most of these problems, the most efficient way to be able to solve them is through technology, and mainly actually intelligent data and innovative solutions. So overall, yeah, that's how I got my idea.
Well, okay, so you're at these landfills as a high schooler or younger, and you're talking to all of these landfill managers. They're telling you their problems. You're like, I'll be right back. And you come back with that.
Yeah, basically.
Wow. Okay, so once they have that data, what can they do with it?
So actually, the main reason why I wanted to have this is because normally the landfill engineers are only going up to certain locations in the landfill to take data only once a month, and that's not enough data to make any type of informed solution. So I wanted to do is to be able to get all that data real time and to see it anywhere. And so basically what's going to happen is after they get this data, you can make an informed solution. And so what I did, kind of like the second part of my project, is I actually created a machine learning model which predicted the methane based on the moisture content inside of my landfill simulator at home. And also using that information, I created also another a little pump. And so what happens is in the landfill, that pump will be in certain areas, and it will actually extract the methane and then take that to a landfill gas tank. And so once all that methane is in the tank, you can actually harvest it again and then use it for power. So in my county, they're actually using it to power the homes in the area.
Wait a minute, hold on. So you went from building a sensor to seeing the even bigger problem to realizing that you needed to build a pump to be able to capture a lot of this stuff more efficiently than what was already there. And then you just redid that too?
Yeah, basically. I mean, so like actually what happens is in landfills, like they do have, or some landfills only have like a proper landfill gas extraction system. Quite a bit of landfills don't. But actually another problem is that sometimes if you leave on the extraction system for too long, it can cause fires inside of the landfill, and you don't know that until like 3 weeks later. And then it creates like a lot of damage. So in order to prevent that, I created a pump that can also be controlled remotely. So you can also control what's happening in the landfill anytime you want to. Yeah.
Now, I can already see your wheels turning, but what's the next step in scaling up here?
I mean, yeah, actually, I've already done it. But basically, I wanted to have like a more like visual way of seeing the methane emissions. So what I did is I used an IR camera to be able to find like different methane hotspots in the landfill area, and then do more machine learning to be able to look at like exactly where the methane is being released in the landfill. And then also another way I did that is I put that sensor on top of a drone. So the drone kind of goes around the landfill, because like average landfills are about like 1,000 acres. And like actual landfill engineers have to go to like throughout the whole landfill to take data. So if you just put a drone and if you make it go around, it's like easier. So. Okay,
so the last question, and the math that I'm trying to do, you're 17 now, you have to be 35 to run for president. What year can we vote for you for president?
Oh, for president, 2042.
2042, okay. Lavanya, 2042 for president. You heard it here first. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see what you do next.
Great. Thank you so much.
Future is looking bright. That does it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.